Mr. Thruckell, Mr. Dark, you say the defendant is a promiscuous liar who broke your heart 4 years ago, stepping out on your then relationship. You admit to having a one-night stand with her 2 years ago, but are furious Ms. Bailey is now claiming you fathered her 11-month-old son, which you say is impossible. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Here is Ms. Bailey's claim.
Ms. Bailey, you say Mr. Dark is a deadbeat who knows full well he is your son Jameer's father. You claim there is no way anyone but Mr. Dark could have fathered your son. Is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
When Mr. Dark asked why he would call Ms. Bailey a promiscuous liar, this was his response.
But when I come back, she was doing her best friend's hair at the house. So I came in from work, gave her a kiss, whatever, told her that I was gonna walk to the store for a second to grab some things. When I left out of the door to go to the store, her best friend came running out of the door to like, hey, Terrence, wait up for a second, I'm gonna go to the store with you. So, I thought that was kind of strange, like, why'd you, But anyway, we went on to the store. Well, while we was going to the store, her friend started to tell me a story. She was like, well, I just want to tell you something. She was like, well, the whole time that you was gone, she was cheating on you.
Even when Mr. Dark found out, do you think they stopped their relationship?
We never stopped dealing with each other along the way. Even though we separated, we still occasionally seen each other every, like 2, 3, maybe every 2 months, 3 months or so.
What's dealt with each other mean?
We still seen each other occasionally.
Seen each other and had sex, or
Yes,
just
ma'am.
seen each other
Still
and
was
said
having
hello?
unprotected sex sometimes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So let's get down to the facts and see if, in fact, Mr. Dark is Jamil's father.
You're saying the last time you were really intimate was around in March.
Yes.
If Jameer's birth date is November 13, 2016, then that means the conception window would be February 17th to February 24th, 2016.
Right.
And you said
But
you all weren't intimate until March.
Mr. Dark feels betrayed by Ms. Bailey, and this is what he says in court.
Whatever. Like,
Yes, ma'am.
You feel like you were a crutch.
Yes, ma'am, because from the beginning, I was there at the hospital when Jameer was born, even with my doubts, because in the back of my mind, I didn't never want to feel like, okay, he really was my son and I didn't do the things that I was supposed to do as a father. I was there when he was born. The onesies and stuff that he took home,
Okay, so
I
why
bought for
did you
them.
sign the birth
Pampers,
certificate?
the Pampers that he
When Ms. Bailey began to talk, she revealed something shocking.
And the reason why I signed the birth certificate, to answer your question, is because you told me at the hospital that if I didn't sign it right then I
No,
wouldn't
I
have
did
another
not.
opportunity to
I
sign
didn't-
it. That's what you told me right there at the hospital.
no, I didn't. You didn't have to sign it. I didn't force you to sign it. You
If
signed
I
it on your
didn't
own.
sign it, what was gonna happen? He won't have your last name, you won't get to sign it. Did you not say that?
Okay, but
Okay, you
I
said
did
that.
not.
Not only did she force Mr. Dark into signing the birth certificate, but this isn't her first rodeo.
Ms. Bailey, have you been in a paternity situation before?
I have. With my ex.
You have?
Yes.
With your ex. So one of your other children, there was a paternity question surrounding that.
Yes.
And you got it resolved? It was determined
That he wasn't.
the biological father. Do you know who your child's biological father is? That
Yes.
child, you do know.
Yes, I do.
So now history is repeating itself in this moment for you.
Yes, it is.
When Judge Lauren asked whether they were intimate during the stated time of conception, this was their reply.
Question then is, were you intimate in February during the window of conception we outlined between February 17th to February 24th?
No, ma'am.
No.
Both of you said no. So, Ms. Bailey, I must ask you, respectfully, who were you intimate with during that time
No
in
one.
February?
No one.
Yana Bradley, Mr. Black's girlfriend, stepped up to the stand as a witness.
Girlfriend.
Okay, what would you like to tell the court?
Well, first, in my personal opinion, I don't feel like the baby looks like him. That's just my personal opinion.
So you do not feel like there is a physical resemblance?
No.
She also added this.
My due date is November 19th. My conception date is February 24th.
Oh, And we're now 1 year later, but what you're saying is that you have a similar due date
Yes.
as the one that was presented for Jameer, as when Jameer was born.
Yes.
Ms. Bailey stepped in and said this.
Okay, well, we two different people. Like,
It don't matter.
but still. And my baby
You're
look-
two different people, Miss Bailey, but at the same time, comparatively, there's going to be a child that will potentially be born around the same time as yours, exactly 1 year later, which further indicates that this window of time of February 17th to February 24th is a more realistic time frame.
Mr. Black gives a history of Ms. Bailey's patterns. Along with that, some secrets spill.
It's like, to me, I think she likes to destroy homes. Like, she likes
How?
to deal with attached men. Like,
How?
You're saying she likes to deal with attached men.
Yes,
Are
ma'am.
you an attached man now?
yes, ma'am.
Okay, have you been dealing with her while you're attached?
No, ma'am. But it probably not because I did.
Yes, he were.
Probably
Yes,
because
he were. He was calling my phone, asking me could he come over and have sex with me.
When the judge asked what his relationship was with Jameer, Ms. Bailey's child, this was what he said.
Jameer's life, I've been a part of his life. I've gotten him, I've taken him with me, I've kept him. I took him to Alabama with me when I went to my granny's funeral last month. And my whole
Wow,
family,
for all
the
a
whole
couple of
family
days because
said
of
that
what?
that's not your
A
child.
So when you
So when Mr. Black's family saw the child, this is what they had to say about him.
brought Jameer with you to your family member's funeral,
Yes, ma'am.
your whole family said to
whole
you, that's
family.
not your child.
The whole family. My mama said, boy, if you don't get that baby out of here. I'm telling you, that's exactly what she said to me.
This is what Ms. Bailey hopes from Mr. Black.
What are you hoping for, Miss Bailey?
That he step up and that he do for my baby. Like, I don't understand. And I grew up without my parents, so I want him to be there for Jameer.
So you're saying you grew up without your parents?
I did. And it was very hard for me.
Mr. Black, however, denies her accusation about not doing anything for Jameer.
He say I don't want to do for him. I bought him probably like about 15 ones when he first was born and some
You
diapers
did
and
not
stuff.
buy him
And I
nothing.
took him to her or whatever, but
It was
because of the
clothes
fact
that was already worn for someone
because
else.
of the fact that another lady had gave me these things or whatever,
Okay,
but
so
it
why
was
would you
because
say you bought something
her
you
baby
never
never
bought
won.
nothing?
They
Well,
were
let me
new.
be clear.
But in the case of Mr. Black versus Ms. Bailey, the stakes are high. Let's take a look as to why.
You have basically acknowledged paternity. By signing that birth certificate, you have said to your state, I am acknowledging that I'm the father of this child, which means you're responsible to take care of the child. You're going to be responsible for child support for this child.
Now the results are in. Let's check it out.
When it comes to 11-month-old Jameer Dark, it has been determined by this court. Mr. Dark, you are the father.
The verdict also means Mr. Dark was unfaithful to his current girlfriend.
So for all the blame we want to just put on her, really, this is both of your doing. And the only person that's truly suffered is Jameer, because he's almost one and he really hasn't felt the full, complete love of his daddy.
Mr. Threlkeld, an Afghan veteran, is upset with his wife for this reason.
Mr. Threlkeld, you have entered this courtroom with a marriage on the brink of divorce. You state that while you were out of the country serving in the military, your wife paraded around town with other men. And she has admitted to cheating multiple times. You claim you are not sure if you are the father of her third child, 18-month-old Liliana.
His wife, Mrs. Threlkeld, stated,
You say you began exotic dancing to make extra money.
Yes, sir.
Because Mr. Threlkeld's military salary was inadequate to live on, and that led to a few indiscretions. You argue that Mr. Threlkeld treats your daughter, Liliana, differently than your other children and are hoping today's DNA results will settle the matter once and for all.
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Threlkeld mentioned when his wife was first unfaithful.
Actually, ma'am, I was overseas in Afghanistan, and I was at up in the Northeast, and a soldier of mine came up to me and tapped me on the boot and said, hey, I need to go outside, we need to talk right now. So earlier on in the day, me and him got into some words, so I thought we were gonna, settle it. Well, it turns out his wife and my wife were friends, and she had found out that she was actually stripping as we spoke.
He continues to speak.
I found out about it, I thought, it was all just a hoax, so I went, calmly to the internet lounge, got on Facebook and asked her, hey, is it true you're doing what I told you I didn't want you doing at all? And she didn't really say anything, honestly.
After he found out, something horrible happened to him.
Right after I left there, our base actually got attacked. And they actually turned off the internet for 3 weeks. So I was in the dark for 3 weeks. And then another 2 weeks after those 3 weeks went by, I got transferred to Bagram. And while I was at Bagram, I finally was able to get back online. And I get on Facebook, and there's some clown on there saying, liking all her skimpy photos.
He continued to say more.
He liked that she was start working at the club. So then I started doing a little bit of research, wondering, who this guy is. So I went to the phones and I called her and I said, hey, I know you're stripping, that I could somewhat deal with. Tell me about this guy that's going on. And she says, oh, it's nothing, it's just a friend, etc. The same BS that every girl says.
First of all, we were done.
But Mrs. Threlkeld doesn't agree with the story. She said this.
He hacked my Facebook. He invaded my privacy, and he looked into my stuff, into my messages.
So
That's how we found out.
What did he find?
There were messages, yes, but...
Actually, ma'am, see, she's gonna,
No.
that's already a lie.
But Mrs. Threlkeld doesn't believe she was cheating.
we were not together. We had a phone conversation, and he had said, we're gonna get a divorce, and I'll send you the divorce papers. And then we hung up.
Mr. Threlkeld then interrupts and explains more.
When I was at Fenty, we got in a phone argument, like you said, on Skype. And I told her, look, if you're gonna strip after me and you, I've already gone through the discussion that you're not to do it until I get back, and we'll talk about it then. She says,
there was reasons why I needed to.
yeah, see, she says she needed the funds to support our family. Overseas,
Yeah,
I was making $4,000 to $5,000 tax-free a month. Living in a $400
It wasn't
rent
even that much.
room.
But Mrs. Threlkeld was not backing down.
Okay, Your Honor, there are expenses when you have kids. The money that was coming in, let's just be real, it wasn't enough to support the kids. And on top of that,
wasn't enough to support the kids. How? Because I'm going to keep it real, $5 grand a month.
I had to
tax-free.
have it mainly.
Things began to get heated in the courtroom, and some slurs started to spill.
Will
So
you
she
just
starts
let me
stripping?
talk? No. See, this is what I have to deal
I'm asking
with.
is because I really want to
He's
know
always calling me.
why you chose stripping. I mean, because you could have just said, I want to go get an extra job at the mall.
Okay.
I want to be
I had
in
chose-
Ma'am, since
Your Honor,
since
I
we've been
had to
together, since
choose-
2008, she hasn't started working until actually about 3 weeks ago. It's
That
her
is
actually
a job, by
first-time
the
job. Hooking or stripping?
It's not hooking.
Mr. Threlkeld continued to state his argument.
You're selling your body for money, hooker.
No, it's not.
Anyways.
Excuse me.
Anyways, to make matters worse, ma'am, the day I was supposed to come back home from overseas, we were told before we even got on the plane at Fort McCoy, Wisconsin, that there's going to be the color guard, the motorcycles that drive, in front. The news was going to be there. I get there, and not my father, my mother, my wife, like I said, we'll quote that, weren't even there. We get there.
And he just wouldn't care to stop.
They call everybody's names up, everybody's clapping and cheering. They come to my name, and it's just dead quiet. No one was there. So as everybody's getting ready to go home, I'm sitting there with my bags, and I didn't even have a phone yet, so I couldn't even call her. So I'm sitting there under a streetlight with my army bag on one side and a suitcase on the other.
Mr. Threlkeld was upset because no one was there to pick him up. But when she argued she was waiting for him, this was what he had to say.
Actually, ma'am, 2 weeks before we came back from overseas, my unit actually sent papers to all the family members back home, giving the exact address and time and who would be there at the time. So it's not like somebody didn't know, or she didn't know where it was at and when it was going to be there. Hell, it was on channel 5, channel 8, channel 7, channel 14, and 11.
Did she eventually pick you up?
Mr. Threlkeld states an incident that proves his suspicion.
I saw the guy. She hadn't fully admitted that she's been seeing this guy. So I snatched the phone from her and I started going through it. And as I was looking through it, there was a number that she'd called like 13 times. So I called him right back. And he answers the phone, hey, you know, I said, who is this? Are you the one that's been with my wife? He said, yes, I've been.
Mrs. Threlkeld starts to get defensive and tries her best to prove that she didn't do anything wrong.
I said, why are you crying?
We were already done
and she's like, well,
Why would
he
it
was my
matter what I
boyfriend.
do? Why do you care?
Why would you have a boyfriend if you're married? Paper or no paper?
We weren't. We were done.
You had papers?
Well, why do we have to have papers to be done? You said it was over.
Because in a marriage.
It's called a divorce.
Yeah,
So, we were done a few days ago. Just a week ago we were done.
For nothing, you're still
then you
married
went-
till you get one.
This is insane. Could Mr. Threlkeld be manipulating his wife?
So you had it in your mind that if I get my wife pregnant, she'll stop stripping.
Roger,
Because that's going to definitely
what she
be
tells me,
a
kind of like she
professional.
just said, kind of like how she just said, I'm gonna strip and I'm gonna do whatever I want because that's what I'm
Because
gonna
we
do.
were done.
I said, oh really? Okay, I'll give you a 9-month break on me. I mean, so.
Yeah, but apparently people still want me.
But before the manipulation, Mr. Threlkeld mentioned he wanted his wife to do this.
You asked your wife to take a lie detector test at some point, am I correct?
Yes, ma'am. Before she came back, I said, look, you know, obviously the path we're going down right now isn't a good one. Either it's a go or no go. So I think for my insecurities, I'd like you to take a lie detector test. And she kept saying, oh, yeah, it's fine, I'll do it, you know, no big deal.
Why don't
but
we need a lie
when it comes
detector
closer
test? We don't
to
need to
actually
take one.
doing it, she starts, you know, getting nervous. I could start telling from body language and, you know, tone of her voice, she was getting nervous.
But instead, he found out this.
Right after our first daughter, she cheated on me with a guy when she was going to cosmetology school. On her way to cosmetology school, she goes to his house. And a little bit before that, he was taking pictures of both of us. And when she went there to go check the photos, she got a tour of the house, and lo and behold, the tour ended at the room. So
you slept with the photographer.
Yes, Your Honor, I did.
He also found out something else.
she was watching TV next to this one guy, and she started falling asleep, and next thing you know,
Okay,
he
look,
rolled over
look.
on her, and she thought
Okay,
it was
Your
me.
Honor, when he, no.
And had sex with him.
Mistaken identity.
I guess. He's about
As
this
a
tall and
defense.
ugly.
Comes down to the point where I did make a mistake, yes. If I
But
could
you
take it back, I
said
could,
you
but
said
I
a
can't.
few indiscretions. That's not one mistake.
Mrs. Threlkeld then started to describe her husband's behavior.
He's controlling, he is verbally abusive, emotional. He treats my daughter differently than the
Yeah,
other
she's a daddy's
two.
girl.
Well, that's
He
because
calls her,
he
you
has
wanna explain the names
explicitly
that you
said
call
he
her?
doubts that he may or may not be her father. Do you think
When Mr. Threlkeld is asked whether he wants to try again and work the relationship, this is what he said.
I would say yes, but as a guy, I've never really been put in the shoes to where I would have to
It's
choose
either yes or no.
my kid or not.
You do or you don't.
I mean, there's still a baby involved. I mean, you can't just. I'm not going to take it out on her, even if
Oh,
it's
you're
not
not gonna
mine.
take it out on
even
me?
if it's
Yeah,
not
I've
mine.
been
No, the
paying
one
for
I'm going to
this
take
for
it out
2
on isn't her.
years.
It's the one in the pink shirt.
You're
so
the one you take it
congratulations.
out on me every single day.
Now, the results are in. Let's check them out.
in the case of Threlkeld versus Threlkeld pertaining to 1-year-old Liliana, Mr. Threlkeld, you are Liliana's father.
Mrs. Threlkeld was definitely emotional, but let's check out what he says.
Yes, Your Honor, it's
Joy,
really,
or
I
both?
mean, it's all together. I'm happy because I know she's his, so I would like to work on everything.
Well, ma'am, there's a reason why, because since the day it's happened, since February 2011 to be exact when I found out, there has not been a day that's gone by that I haven't let her not relive the mistake she made. Period.
Now, get back to being a family already.